Hello and welcome to this special program on Rajya Sabha television, wherein we bring you the digital interventions in our fight against COVID-19. Now, there are several aspects, and we bring you all of them one by one. In today's episode, we'll talk about the digital surveillance and monitoring of COVID-19, which is being done by two premier institutes, that is CCMB and IGIB. And we also have with us a representative from NCDC, which is into integrated disease surveillance. So let me first introduce the guest to you so that we can understand better as to how this disease surveillance and monitoring is done in a digital mode and what purpose will it solve? What benefits does it have? Where are we right now? So the guests with us are Dr. Anurag Agarwal. He's the director of Institute of Genetics and Molecular Biology. Welcome, Dr. Agarwal. We also have with us Dr. Rakesh Mishra. He's the director of Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, both the institutes which are involved in this process. And we have with us Dr. Sanket V. Kulkarni as well. He's the deputy director of Integrated Disease Surveillance Program in NCDC, that is National Center for Disease Control. Welcome all of you once again to Rajya Sabha Television. Let me begin with you, Dr. Agarwal, and let's start by trying to understand what is digital surveillance and monitoring. When we talk about COVID-19, what's this process? How is it being carried out?
Sure. So first I would expand this to be digital and molecular surveillance. That's the actual name of the vertical, given by the Empowered Committee for Science and Technology. You can think of this as three different parts. You are monitoring the virus, you are monitoring the infections, and you're monitoring the outbreaks. All three are independent. All three can be done in digital formats. Monitoring the virus is basically about looking at which virus is infecting whom and how the virus is changing, the mutations happening in the virus, and whether those mutations have any clinical relevance whatsoever. The next part is about monitoring the infections. So at a digital level, you're monitoring the people who are complaining of symptoms. You can think of Arogya Setu for this one. You are looking at a surveillance of where the tests are turning positive, how many tests are being done, and what can you infer about the different geographical regions within India where the tests are rising. And within this category, you can also start thinking about not only the process of infection, but the outcomes of the infected. So at a more detailed level, more digital resolution, you could start thinking about the background, the demographics, the genetics, and the clinical data from the time a person gets infected to the time there is an outcome. Now we hope that everybody would have a positive outcome, but there will certainly be some negative outcomes as well. How would you digitally generate the type of data that allows you to predict at each of these levels, has the virus changing, which are the areas where infections are going to rise next, and how will a patient who's been infected do in his clinical course, better or worse, and what is the level of care matching that you may need to do. And highlight is one last flavor to it. Assuming the health sector gets overwhelmed, at some point you'd be asking decision support systems to start looking at the digital data that is coming and start making decisions. That will be the last part beyond monitoring, going towards decision making. Artificial intelligence is the commonly used term for some of these processes.
Okay, so this is how the monitoring and surveillance process is done. Let me bring in Dr. Mishra here from CCMB, the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology. Dr. Mishra, from your perspective and the way your institute is involved in this program, what and how are we going ahead?
Yeah. So to have the comprehensive view of where it stands with respect to this disease at the national level, first thing we need to know is what is the extent of this infection. That means testing large number of people. It's particularly important because we know that very significant proportion of infected people don't have symptoms. So actually we do not know how the virus is spreading, who all are having it without they don't have symptoms, but they can spread the virus at the same time. So one of the emphasis is to test as many people as possible. So then we can kind of map how the virus is spreading. The second thing is, as Dr. Agarwal mentioned, the symptoms and the response of the patients. So I partly already said that many of the infections are asymptomatic. However, there are a large number of people who have symptoms, and if more the infection, more the number of people who will need a hospital, and then how these different people are responding. And now the third thing is to knowing a little bit more about this virus. Virus is essentially what it does is based on what sequence it carries. That's what is the genetic makeup of the virus. And in this context, can we figure out if there are differences? And if you look at all these 3-4 things in the context of various geographical, various population, various cities at the national context, then we'll be able to figure out how this virus is spreading, what kind of influence it has, and in different regions of the country, are there subtle differences in the isolates of these viruses? And if we can link it, then it's like knowing the rules of the game better, so that we can play it better and we defeat the virus in multiple ways. How to stop the infection, when infected people, how to take care of them, and so on. So that is the whole idea of this big program, which will give us information and essential clues, so that larger scale decision making can be facilitated.
Okay, and that's perfectly put there by Dr. Mishra. We will understand the rules of the game here in terms of the fight against COVID-19. We will understand the virus better so that we can counter it better. Let me, before I bring in Dr. Kulkarni, let me go back to Dr. Agarwal here. Dr. Agarwal, since you are part of this particular initiative, and you spoke about this being done at 3 particular levels in terms of monitoring the virus, monitoring the infection itself as well. So how are we going about it in terms of the processes which we have put in place, the infrastructure which we have put in place, and where have we arrived so far?
Sure. So far, I mean, and again, I'm sure Mahesh will touch upon it, that we have been looking at RT-PCR-based nucleic acid testing around the country, and that has given us a lot of information regarding where the hotspots are. Now, the problem, exactly as Dr. Mishra said, is that many people are asymptomatic, and improving the case definition wider and greater amount of testing is going to be critical in identifying as many people. I would like people to think that unless we are able to reduce the number of infected people out in the community, we will never be able to open up the economy and go about our business normally. Mm-hmm. And if we only focus on symptomatic people, it can't be done. So which basically means today morning, Karnataka started a test pilot in Kolar. Mm-hmm. It was launched by Javed Akhtar, the Additional Chief Secretary, in which we are randomly doing surveillance of people with both antibody-based testing, as well as pooled RT-PCRs, as well as a combination of the 2 plus lab-based ELISA methods, trying to understand, exactly as Rakesh said, what is the best way to sample people in a cost-effective manner, in a non-terribly inconvenient manner. You can never sample everybody in a country of 1 billion plus. So how do you do this in the most informative way? And that has happened. And the other part, or digital part, is all this information, if it does not reach the decision makers in a fast and usable format, it does not actually help decision making. So you may have heard of the book Digital Nation by Chandra, the chairman of the Tata Group. Mm-hmm. So this is an example of digital testing that we are doing along with Tata, in which the entire platform of everything that is being done is totally digital. And we chose Kolar because more than 1 million people over there are already on the database. Okay. And we would like to now extend this to other parts in the nation, but I'm very happy to talk to you today because just an hour ago we flagged this program off.
Okay, so that's so wonderful that the first pilot has begun in terms of ensuring that the digital surveillance is done, and as you pointed out, that data can be shared. Now, that is where I'd like to bring in Dr. Kulkarni here from NCDC. Dr. Kulkarni, you're part of the Integrated Disease Surveillance Program, and one very critical and crucial aspect of this surveillance and monitoring in the digital format of COVID-19 is to go ahead and collate the data, present it in a usable form to the decision makers as well, and also ensure that there is a continuity of information sharing between all the stakeholders here, starting from the local level to the central level. So how is this process done as far as NCDC is concerned?
Thank you, Vishal. And actually, I would like to tell you how actually the system works. We have a special surveillance system in place, which is only for COVID-19. And at the field level, how suppose a case is admitted, and there is case investigation form which is filled, and it is put onto the system that is already existing. Once the sample is taken, there is a SRF, sample registration form, which goes to the laboratory, and from the lab the data is directly entered onto the portal. So once the result is positive, it comes back on the same portal, and it is collated at the district level also at the same time. So the district people will come to know who are the positive in their own district, and they do the contact tracing of all the positive confirmed cases, so that the contacts, that is the high risk contacts and the low risk contacts, are tracked, and they are also added onto the system. Now each of those confirmed cases, we know how many contacts are being tracked, how many are high risk, how many are low risk, and among them the high risk are tested, and out of them how many becomes positive. This is actually the distance system is helping in the surveillance system. And more apart from that, we have so many other additionalities, like how many isolation beds are there, how many beds are there with oxygen facilities, how many ventilators are available, how many patients are on them, each of those. So all these are helpful for us for decision making, and it is used by the ministry and all the other decision makers at the highest level.
Okay, so there is a system in place out there which also not only tells us how the virus is affecting, but also the infrastructure there as well. Dr. Mishra, I'd like to bring you in here in terms of the points which have been mentioned by Dr. Agarwal vis-a-vis the symptomatic and asymptomatic patients, and you also mentioned out there. So clearly, according to you, how should the focus be divided? Because there are several asymptomatic cases as well now coming in.
See, to me, that is actually the bigger issue, not for the people who are asymptomatic, but the future of the and the spread of the disease. Because these are the people, they are not knowing that they are carrying the virus, and they are fully competent of spreading, because the virus is multiplying in the body, and that is why this national lockdown of this scale has been decided is extremely important. Unless we know how many people are having infection, we can't take a decision about them. So the best is to reduce the interaction so that we can hold for some time the spread of the disease. So so that's why the testing at very large scale is very important. Now the other thing is, are there different features of the virus that makes these people asymptomatic, or these people themselves, because of their genetic makeup or because of some earlier experience of similar infection, or for some reason very special immune response, they are able to fight it out without any symptom. So these are the questions that will be answered when we collect data at large scale, at population scale, and integrate in one place where this can be analyzed carefully, and then some trend can emerge. So that trend, then we can make certain prediction that how things will happen, knowing the details of patients and details of the isolates that are, if there is a link between asymptomatic versus symptomatic, there has to be some reason. So we have to figure out, there are tools, but it's just that we need to collect a large number of cases like this, and collect the data and integrate at national level, analyze it carefully, and that analysis with the predictions, with the trend, then can be shared with the policymakers.
Okay, Dr. Agarwal, is that aspect one of the parameters or one of the focus points as far as the KOLAR project is concerned, which you said has just begun, in terms of looking at symptomatic and asymptomatic patients as well?
Yes. In the KOLAR, we are using very much exactly as Dr. Kulkarni pointed out. One entire vertical of KOLAR is based on conventional sampling, which does exactly the type of contact tracing they have defined. I mean, I think that's the most effective, proven approach in this world. The second part of it simply takes random identification of people from two categories. People who are highly infected, people who are just normal people. And to understand this, I would like the viewers to imagine you have lots of dots. Some of the people are infected, think of them as red dots, they are symptomatic. And some of them are yellow dots, which are asymptomatic. One thing you know for certain, you cannot get an infection from a person to person without two people who are one person infected transmitting it. So all these people have lines connecting them. If you wanted to find as many people as you can, you could go from starting from the reds and spread outwards, but you could also do a random sampling of the community, find a few more dots you would have otherwise missed, and then go back to what Dr. Kulkarni was saying about the classical methods of tracing.
Okay.
Now, if you look at India's strength, are we a nation with a huge strength in health infrastructure? Probably not. Are we a nation with a huge strength in digital infrastructure? Probably so. So by judiciously using our limited health infrastructure, building upon it, using all the time opportunities we've been got, and strongly using our digital infrastructure, things like apps, Arogya Setu, smartphones, millions, hundreds of millions of people connected. In theory, an Aadhaar number that allows us to identify everybody and judicious, ethical use of the same. We can do a far better job in a cooperative manner if everybody understands the importance of this. And such effort is what Kolar is about as a proof of concept.
Okay, so using judiciously the digital infrastructure to augment our health infrastructure there as well. Dr. Kulkarni, would you agree with what both Dr. Mishra and Dr. Agarwal is pointing out here, that yes, the traditional system of contact tracing or the traditional system of surveillance obviously is the mainstay, but then the digital aspect of it does add value and then exponentially increase our chance of going ahead and monitoring, tracking, and finding out how does the virus behave and where it might infect.
Definitely, sir. I would actually agree with Dr. Agarwal said. And the Arogya Setu app is helping very much. Like it has been downloaded by all the positive patients once they come into the picture, and if they even go back, once, because all the people are not shifted to the quarantine facility or the isolation centers immediately, because the sample is collected from some collection centers also. So we know once, as soon as they get positive, it is coming onto the portal, and we know who are the positive people. Once, if all the people download this app, automatically it signals that whether you are in the safe zone or you are not in the safe zone. Definitely you'll come to know and whom to pick up and whom to isolate. So this digital technology is also very helpful, and the policymakers are thinking on the line to now all the affected districts should have its citizens to download this Arogya Setu app, so that if they are going to the non-affected districts or non-affected zones, it will help in preventing the actually coming in contact with those actually not infected or not immunized. So those things are in place. But this will help in a big way for prevention of the COVID-19 in India.
Okay, so that's one very significant point there. I'll bring Dr. Agarwal again here on a point which both of you raised, Dr. Mishra and you as well. In fact, both of you spoke about how it'll be easier for us to understand the genetic makeup of this particular virus, the way in which this virus behaves. That's one of the main motives, main aims of this particular digital surveillance or monitoring which you guys are conducting. So does that also give us a bit of a knowledge and an upper hand in terms of finding the cure as well? Because when we talk about vaccines, obviously we will need to understand how the virus behaves. What's its genetic makeup? What is it made of?
Yes, I think it's absolutely critical. I'll mention here an effort that we have been supporting NCDC in. They have viral isolates from around, they have viral samples from around the country, and we've been working hard with them, sequencing many of these viral strains. And we're going directly now from sample to sequence. We don't actually even grow the virus in a culture. In fact, unlike CCMB, at IGIB, we do not culture the virus at all. Neither does NCDC for that matter. And we've been able to see the amount of variations and mutations that have come. And the idea basically is on the lines of what you said. You find the parts of the virus that are changing, you find the parts that are not changing. The parts that are not changing are either extremely important to the virus, therefore mutation is not allowed, and those areas will become the best possible targets for either a vaccine or for a drug. And in case your current vaccine or current drugs are targeting a mutated area, you would have a sense or whether those drugs are likely to stay effective or not. I mean, much of this work is done in computers in terms of predicting the effect. And I would like to bring in one last point over here. The reason this virus is so infective and has so much human-to-human transmission is because of mutations in its spike protein that allows it to bind to what's called the ACE2 receptor in humans more efficiently.
Okay.
Humans also have variation in the ACE2 receptor. Not all of us are identical. A joint study of the variations happening in the virus and a study of the variations in the Indian population in our case, but global populations more broadly, would help us understand the future virus host dynamics much more scientifically. And perhaps if the virus mutates to become more or less aggressive, we could potentially find it out. There have been some reports, nothing very proven. In the end, you have to go back to exactly what Dr. Mishra's lab does. It actually cultures the virus, grows it, tests it in cell. But we can make some useful predictions about it from the sequence data.
Okay. Dr. Mishra, your views on that?
Yeah, exactly. So what we are trying to say is that if we know more about the behavior of the virus and link it to its genetic makeup, we'll be able to then, looking at the virus, tell what it's going to do. So it will give us a power to predict its features, and then we can take better decisions. So like exactly what Dr. Agarwal said, if the virus is so variable, then we know that vaccine is not going to be the first option for this. We know viruses like AIDS and common flu, for many decades we are not able to find a vaccine, and there's a reason behind that. So if that is the case, then we look for other alternatives. Best is, of course, what we know best about this virus is how it spread. As Dr. Agarwal mentioned, right, without 2% being in contact, it will not reach. So we know precisely how it spreads, and then we know also that symptoms of the person is not indicative of this. So more and more testing, connecting the behavior of the virus with its genome and with the genome or the genetic features of the individual, we'll be able to come up with a fair strategy of how to control this virus. So that's the more understanding of the details of the virus and linking it to the patient's response and basis of the patient response, will be in the position to provide suggestions so that we can effectively control the spread before it does more damage.
Okay. Dr. Agarwal, before we conclude this particular episode, I'd like to get a summary from you in terms of the efforts which have been made so far, not only in understanding the virus and the infection, also in terms of, the point which you made, digital infrastructure, augmenting the health infrastructure. Where do we stand and how do you see this fight against COVID-19 moving from here onwards? Are we on the right path?
I would say emphatically we are on the right path. I mean, the path has seen some meandering, some turns, but that is natural. We are all learning about the disease. We have had the benefit in India of being able to learn from other people's mistakes. It's not always that you get a chance to learn from other people's mistakes, but because we went into the lockdown early, and I would say a line here, and we are very lucky that the place the virus landed in India was Kerala, probably amongst the states best equipped to contain it. And we are lucky in Delhi, where another epidemic could have easily taken place. We had the efforts of NCDC and IDSP quickly containing what could have turned out to be very, very bad. But this has given us time to learn. The early decision to lockdown has given us time to build our health infrastructure. If you look at any of our shortages, PPE, beds, oxygen, ventilators, you can see we are in a far better position projecting to the first week of May compared to where we were in the second week of April. These essential 3-4 weeks that we have bought ourselves is going to make a big difference. I'm going to make one important point here. When we started the lockdown, we had maybe around 1,000 cases. Right? Today we have around 20,000 cases. You wait a couple of weeks more, you can say 2 doublings and you will be at around 1 lakh cases. Even if 1% of these 1 lakh cases are asymptomatic, and the actual number will be far greater than 1%, you will be back to 1,000 people in your population for which we first entered lockdown. But the reason it will not matter as much now, it will matter, but it won't matter as much. We are better prepared today. We are better prepared digitally, we are better prepared on the ground, and we have a plan in place.
Okay, so we are better prepared, and there is a plan in place. That's what this entire discussion was about, and that's what this particular program of digital surveillance and monitoring of COVID-19 is all about, as has been explained by our panelists. Thank you so much, Dr. Agarwal, Dr. Mishra, and Dr. Kulkarni there as well, from three premier institutes which are at the forefront of this fight against COVID-19. So there it is. We will have to be on our toes. Obviously, we can't let our guard down, but as is explained by the experts here, digital surveillance and monitoring does give us a lot more insights into how the virus behaves, what is it made up of, how does infection spread, and this will not only help us in stopping the spread, but also in finding the cure as well. One small step at a time, but the plan is in place, and digital technology once again is helping us do that. Thank you once again, all three of you, and we'll come back again with a different topic tomorrow. Till then, you keep watching Rajya Sabha television, keep following all the guidelines, specifically on lockdown and social distancing norms. That is the key there. Have Arogya Setu app installed on your mobile phone, as it helps in digital monitoring. And stay safe, stay home.